Adquirir un idioma. ¿Qué dice la ciencia? Many of us come to Spanish class with ideas of how a language class will work. That might be because of classes we've taken in the past, or because what we've heard from our brothers and sisters, our parents, our neighbors, or anything like that. And lots of Spanish classes do focus on memorizing vocabulary words, filling out worksheets, and those kinds of ways of practicing a language. Now, you might have noticed that in the last couple of weeks in this class, we haven't been doing much of that kind of stuff. And the reason why is because I have designed this course, and I am designing this course to align with the latest research in how we human beings best learn to communicate in a new language. So many people say that they took a foreign language class, a world language class in high school or in college, and maybe they even took it for years, but they never learned how to use the language. And they didn't learn how to communicate in the new language, how to make friends, how to learn new things, or just entertain themselves in that language. Now, this class is designed to teach you how to use Spanish. I have spent a long time learning how to teach a language so that my students can use it because I love Spanish and my other languages as well. So it makes me sad to think that anybody would spend years trying to learn it and then in the end not feel like they can really communicate with it. And I want you to be able to use this beautiful language to communicate with fascinating people from around the world who speak Spanish. I want you to be able to communicate in their first language. So maybe it's Spanish. It just makes me sad to think about that, about you not being able to after we've spent so much time. And I love being able to communicate in Spanish and German and English and a little bit of Russian that I speak. And I want the same for you. It sets fireworks off in my brain when I'm learning a new language and I'm able to use it with people and make new friendships and discover new things. And it's just fun. And I want you to be able to experience that kind of fun. It's cool to meet people from around the world and talk to them in their language. And I just want that for you. It's also fun to be able to watch videos, listen to music, read books and articles in a different language as well. It gives you a different perspective onto the world. It's like looking out of the same house that you're in as a person. You look out the one window, it's the English window, and then you open the Spanish window and you see stuff that you never had noticed before. It's the same world, but you see it totally differently. So I'm excited to share that with you to help broaden your perspectives in that way. And you'll probably broaden mine as well because we all have different perspectives on the world. And so I want you to understand how I've designed this class to support your Spanish language development. Okay, so ¿cómo desarrollan las personas la capacidad de hablar un idioma? So how do the people develop the language of speaking ability? How do people do that? Let's reflect on that. Today I want to teach you about how we acquire languages, at least a little bit, and why the class is being designed the way it is being designed. I will tell you a thing or two about brain science and how it applies to your work in this class. And at the end of class, we'll brainstorm a little bit more and talk about some facts about acquisition, that is, how you acquire a language, how you get a new language, and how we're going to do that this year. I'm excited to offer you a cutting-edge, modern, 21st century language class that will help you to achieve more in your Spanish language than I was able to achieve when I took Spanish in high school. Language teaching has come a long way since the late 90s when I was in school, and I'm thrilled to be able to use those new developments to design a class that will truly help you to reach your ultimate goals in Spanish learning abilities. So here's a person, obviously. They want to learn Spanish. And this person wants to be able to speak Spanish and talk to other people, and he's saying hola right now. So the person wants to be able to listen to music in Spanish, watch videos in Spanish, watch movies in Spanish, and they want to be able to write in Spanish and read in Spanish, and maybe one day they'll just live in a Spanish-speaking culture. How about that? Here are some examples of places. Maybe they'll go to España, they'll go to Spain, they'll go to Mexico, they'll go to Honduras, they'll go to Cuba, they'll go to El Salvador, la República Dominicana, Guatemala, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. Who knows? Maybe Equatorial Guinea in Africa, or maybe just an area of a city in the state of Kentucky where Spanish is spoken a lot. Maybe at home. This person wants to be able to speak Spanish naturally, easily, wherever he or she goes without having to think too much. And that's what I want for you, to be able to speak naturally, to speak from the heart, revealing your true personality and ideas. This person also likes to use their mind, of course, and they have a beautiful mind. Look at it, all pastel, bluish, purpley. I don't know what color that is. It's gorgeous, that mind of this person. And when we're speaking any language, it's easier if we speak from the heart and don't get the mind involved too much, because it might trip us up. This means that if we are overthinking it, we focus too much on getting it all right, it may hamper communication. So when we aim to speak our minds, or to speak only with our minds, we only end up overcomplicating things, and we get too caught up in making it all sound right. So speaking with our heart and mind together can also take more time. Let's take these two friends, for example. They're meeting up in a restaurant. They've decided to try to catch up, and they're having big conversations, and one of them is learning Spanish, and the other one is a native speaker. Let's find out who's who. They both like to communicate, and they're both good friends, and they both speak Spanish, at least a little bit. While one speaks, the other one listens. And the listening friend is processing a ton of Spanish words and phrases and sentences and information, all in Spanish. Many of those words are new to her. She didn't know them before, and it takes her time, but slowly she is understanding. That's wonderful. Fireworks going off in her brain. She is pumped. And when the friend speaks, however, this friend who's learning, she's thinking a ton as well. She's trying very hard to make it sound right, and it takes too much time in the end. It takes so much time that her other friend, who's the native speaker, she's just getting annoyed, face is turning all green, she's making a funny face, and that could happen. So has that ever happened to you? Have you ever experienced that you're trying to communicate with a friend, but your friend just can't say what, or anybody, it doesn't have to be your friend, just someone you know, they're trying to say something, they just can't say it, and you're like, why can't you communicate this? Have you ever been frustrated like that? ¿Alguna vez has tenido la misma experiencia? Have you ever had that same experience? Let's take a moment to reflect. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Here we can see both friends are talking a great deal. Look at all those word bubbles floating all around. They're excited to see each other. They're excited to convey their different thoughts on experiences and all the stuff they just want to say. And they're not worried about saying everything perfectly or about making mistakes. As they talk, there are no delays, and they're both very happy, and they're spending time speaking Spanish, and they're listening to one another, and they're not worried about saying everything perfectly or making mistakes. It may not always sound just right, but they are communicating and enjoying their time together, and that is the most important thing. Just look at those smiley faces. So you can see that thinking too much about potential miscommunications, mispronunciations, etc., that just leads to worrying too much. And the rules get in the way of the language sometimes. And we get in our own way, and we just botch conversation. That happens. That happens in our native language. So if we aim to speak from the heart and communicate honestly, it may not always be perfect, but we are able to communicate more effectively usually. It takes less time often as well. When we write, however, we often need to take more time to think and process our thoughts. It's okay to take time, and we can always go back and edit it to ensure that it sounds just right. So writing and speaking are essentially two different animals. Editing and checking our work can help us to sound incredibly smart and wise and astute to anyone reading our work. We want our audience to understand, and editing helps us to ensure that we are communicating effectively and clearly in our writing, which is the goal of writing anyway. So eventually we won't need as much time to write or speak, by the way. Soon enough, as we get more and more input, we will be able to communicate in Spanish, listening and reading quite quickly because we have gotten so much input. We can think about what we want to say and how we want to say it, and not the words and rules we use. So when you speak English, you speak from the heart. That is what I want you to be able to do in Spanish, to reveal your actual thoughts and your actual self in Spanish. So when we learn with our brains, we can learn rules and memorize word lists and all that good stuff. But if all we know is rules and lists, then when we try to speak from the heart and actually say what we want to say, we have to think first about the words and the rules, and that just ends up slowing us down. It makes us feel awkward when we speak. I want you to be able to enjoy other people's company and communicate. I want you to be able to have fun with the language and to feel comfortable about saying what you need to say or want to say. We aim not to fret, not to worry too much about how we say it, especially when speaking. Speaking from the heart takes less time. Enjoying the process of communication will get easier over time. Plus, we may not always have the time to think about the rules or try to remember what we had memorized in conjugation tables and word lists. So, have you ever had a time like that where you didn't have any time to think and you had to respond immediately on the spot? Think about it. Tell me what you come up with. I have definitely had the experience. Talking on the phone in my world languages, for example, you got to respond immediately. ¿En cuáles situaciones no tenemos el tiempo para pensar y formular nuestras respuestas? That's the same question, just read in Spanish. Thank you for reflecting. Moving on here. I'll tell a little bit about myself. When I was studying abroad in Spain, for example, when I was 20 years old, I was a sophomore in college. I'd been to Mexico when I was 18, and that was a fun time as well, studying abroad. And I did a semester in Spain, and I was really worried about getting everything right. And I remember going to this harvest festival, like if you've ever been to the Harvest Homecoming over in New Albany. It was this big festival, and part of it was passing around young wine that was in the process of fermenting, and I wanted some. And they were passing around this big bottle and just pouring it out into people's mouths. And I was like, how can I try some of that? What do I say? How do I formulate this? What's that bottle called? What's this wine called? And I had no idea. But my roommate, who was a deep fried Southern Kentucky country boy, wasn't worried about pronouncing everything perfectly and formulating everything perfectly. So he just cries out in the middle of the crowd, Vino! Which means wine. And we ended up getting to try this young wine in the process of fermenting. So I learned from his example and then began to worry less about how to formulate things perfectly and just started to communicate with people more and was able to gain more friends more quickly. And by the time that I was older, I discovered that that was really the best method. Don't stress it all so much. So, I want to help you to be able to speak from the heart and get what you need and want and communicate the truths that you have found in life. And I want you to be able to focus on what you want to say and not so much how you want to say it. I want you, or how you should say it, let's say. I wanted the language just to flow from within you to the outside world. Sometimes when I was studying abroad in Spain or Germany or Austria or Russia, wherever, I was able to communicate my needs and desires and make new friends. And at other times, I didn't feel as confident. So sometimes I felt really confident, and other times I felt like disconnected between my head and my heart, between what I could say, what I needed to say, what I wanted to say, what the rules were that I knew, what the rules were that I didn't know. And the stuff that I memorized sometimes actually got in my way because I wasn't able to express myself because all those darn rules. So here we go. I'm pouring gasoline on my brain and my heart. What do you think about that? This gasoline canister here represents the input that I need to get all the time. In order to communicate effectively and quickly, I need to get input. I need to listen to Spanish. I need to read Spanish. I need to read all my languages that I'm learning. That's what that's what language experts call input in general. You'll be getting lots of input in Spanish in this class. Eventually, you will be a much faster communicator in Spanish because you will be getting so much input. However, other times you will need to know rules so that you can write more elegantly in Spanish, for example. So the gasoline for your brain comes in the form of the rules and the patterns and the grammatical things that we'll talk about. And the heart stuff is more that you will get from just generally reading and discovering the language. And I'm certain that you will notice a lot of natural patterns because you are curious beings. So this car is a car, obviously, and like humans, it has certain needs that help it run and do its job. So if it doesn't get its needs, like gasoline, then it won't run. It needs that input, just like you need input into language in order for your language capacities to run. So we put gasoline into the car and help it run, and we put language input into you and it helps you speak Spanish. However, lemonade won't work. We can't put lemonade in a car. Lemonade and gasoline. One is great for cars and the other is not so great. It would never work if you put lemonade into a car, or it's the wrong input. It just wouldn't work, like I said. So the car would get upset and wouldn't work at all. The engine wouldn't be happy. And the rules in our brain can sometimes be like lemonade in a car. It's the wrong input. Sometimes it trips us up. Now, this fine lady, of course, she did not put gasoline to her car because she's brilliant. However, it's just not running properly. So she needs to fix something. And the car won't get fixed with more lemonade. So we're not going to dump more lemonade, not more grammar and word list on top of it. Instead, we're going to get more input. Remember these two friends? One was a bit bored whenever her friend took too long to respond. The conversation wasn't interesting, mostly because her friend was thinking and worrying too much about the rules of the language. The gasoline or the fuel input for our language comes from listening and reading lots of Spanish input. Our minds and hearts won't be able to produce any language if we don't just get tons of input. We want to hear and read more Spanish so that we can speak and write more easily. We may want to understand the rules at times because we are naturally curious monkeys, but we need the listening and understanding portion in order to get a greater grasp on the communication aspects, in order to communicate with more ease. So both types of input, both the grammatical input and the vocabulary list input, are critically important to our success as language learners. They are both important. Yet we always want to be sure that we are understanding what we hear and read so that we can speak and write in Spanish. In this way, it will be easier for us to express what we want while speaking from the heart. The rules are interesting to our minds. I love them. I am truly interested in them. If you want to talk about them, just let me know. But they're not as necessary for effective communication. We're all naturally gifted language learners. There's nothing that feels quite as natural as learning a new language, and we are designed to communicate with others. It's what sets us apart from other animals. We have already learned one language, and we're more capable of learning another one, and another one, and another one if we want. Like on this one, I can read the ones on the right-hand side of the hand. It says ciao, Italian, hola, Portuguese, cześć, Polish, bonjour, and terra. I don't know what terra is, actually. We'd have to look that up. When we speak from the heart, when we reveal our true personality and our thoughts, and we are more likely to make friends as we move along with anybody we encounter. Look at these people sharing this big heart together, definitely speaking Spanish. Definitely. People will understand us if we speak what is in our minds and our hearts, despite our mistakes. People are usually very understanding, and they want us to help. They want to help us communicate what we need. Have you ever felt like this young woman sitting at the table, isolated from the other people behind her, unable to express her ideas? She's definitely having a terrible time. How about this young lady? She's the only one in blue and total outcast. She seems worried. She may feel sad and left out of the group behind her. Could it be? Could it be that she is worried about sounding silly, getting caught up in all the rules, making a mistake? Maybe she is thinking too much about getting it perfect, making it difficult for her to communicate and make friends. Soon you will be speaking Spanish from the heart, revealing your true self. Believe me, it can happen. It does happen all the time. You don't need to be held back. With lots of input, lots of reading, lots of listening, you will soon be making friends, establishing and deepening relationships and knowledge on various topics by listening to Spanish, reading Spanish, and speaking from the heart. This fuel or input will help you on your way toward effective communication in Spanish. Trust me, the words will eventually just be flowing out. What sort of input do you think we'll use in class? What kind of input will we get in Spanish in order to help it flow out of us naturally? Where will it come from? Let us find out. Okay, if you play soccer, you probably practice a lot to become an excellent soccer player. Whatever sport you're doing, football, wrestling, etc. I bet you didn't read a whole bunch of multicolored books about it in order to get good at it. No, most likely you went out and you started playing soccer a bunch. You practice and you made mistakes and you played with other people and you just got better. And there was probably some drills too, because I'm not against drills. That can help as well. But the most important aspect is playing, competition, learning from each other and learning from your mistakes. Let's look at this dancer. We surely have lots of dancers in our class, right? And if you spend many hours dancing and rehearsing, you can become better. You can become the best you can be. You want to be the best you can be for your performance. This dancer didn't get good by reading those same multicolored books. No, sir. The best dancers in the world didn't just read about it. They did it. They practiced for many, many hours and got better at it. Now, dancing is a universal in many cultures. It's available across the globe, around the world, and it's a very natural thing. And language learning is the same. So maybe you started practicing the sport. It could have been dancing, it could have been a musical instrument, it could have been something, and it was just fun and you stuck with it and it felt natural. Language can be the same way. We can start using it, start that dance, and just keep it going and keep getting better at it. Ideally, we become better at soccer or whatever we're doing after lots of practice on the field, on site, with others. The same is true in this class. We'll be practicing on site with each other, listening and reading, so that one day we can become the Spanish speakers and writers that we have always dreamed of. All right. Have you ever gained any skills through constant practice? Can you think of any things that you have put a ton of time into and become really good at? ¿Qué habilidades desarrollaste con práctica? So what were you able to practice and become better at? Think about it. Let me know. Okay, thank you for thinking and practicing. Now, I went to school, went to college, and I learned world languages, German, Spanish, Russian, and some Serbo-Croatian. And then I learned how to teach those languages as well. I learned how to translate them. And I learned how to use those different topics, Spanish, German, psychology. And I did a lot of things with them. I did a ton of listening first, however, and a lot of reading. And instead of learning about Spanish, for example, we learned to use Spanish in all kinds of classes, having conversations, talking about culture, literature, film. And I realized that that technique worked. As I learned more and more about how to teach that way through talking about different topics, I also learned a lot through reading. I began to see that by using the language, my fellow students and I were able to have more conversations about topics that we were reading about and listening to. Our conversations just progressed naturally as our confidence continued to grow. I continued to listen and read in Spanish, of course, to improve my skills because, hey, I don't know everything and I never will. I still learn new English words all the time. And the language continues to flow out of me as I put more fuel in it. Gasoline on the heart. Mixing metaphors. We will use lots of different pictures to help us learn because basically humans are very visual creatures. And we'll provide images for your brain to latch onto so you'll remember. The graphics and listening will give you the fuel that you need in order to speak Spanish beautifully. You'll be able to communicate easily because you've already learned how to speak one language at least, and you're very intelligent. And of course, you'll keep growing and learning. I expect no less. At first, we'll start with short passages that have lots of cognates, and those are the words that look and sound alike in English and Spanish, and those will totally build up your confidence. You will be feeling like Mr. Worldwide when you're reading this because you'll be like, I recognize all these words. And they help me feel good as well. So reading is a great way to get input. It will help you to feel confident and to become a better writer, a better reader, and to express yourself more readily in Spanish, reading and writing and speaking and getting that gasoline in the heart, getting that fuel you need, that input. Now, my students learn to use Spanish because we use Spanish as much as possible in class. We are learning not with our heads alone, but also with our hearts. Spanish just flows out of us because we got so much input, so much fuel. When we learn to express ourselves, to express our true thoughts and our hearts, we're likely to express empathy, truth that we are seeking, and we will be seen and understood and just get into the flow. Right, but it takes time to think about all those rules and stuff. When we get stumped by rules and words we might not know, time just builds up. It takes too long. But sometimes our minds are just naturally curious about the rules. It's not that the rules are always bad or anything. Our brains also need that kind of input. There's a special part of the brain that is designed to acquire language and to help us use the language, to help us communicate. This part is separate from the part that learns the rules, however. And these two parts of our brain run on different inputs, and they have different functions. We need both parts of the brain in order to truly communicate. It's a beautiful part about being human. We can critically speak with our hearts, but without nourishing both parts, our minds may feel imbalanced. So we need to express our thoughts and our feelings, etc., but also be able to articulate ideas about rules and vocabulary and origins and just linguistic facts. The hard part of the brain, the part where we use our thinking to talk about what we want to say and how we want to express it, the part that lets us be ourselves in the language and express our personalities and feel free and natural and not awkward and slow, runs on messages. This part is technically called the language acquisition device and is part of a special quality that is only found in human beings. It is what lets us learn our first language from our families and not have to use worksheets and take tests and flashcards, etc. We'll just be talking as little bitty kids, 1 and 2 year olds, and we're learning the language. That's the language acquisition device. And it runs on messages, on ideas, on content, not worksheets and grammar rules. But the brainy part, the part that learns the rules, it also has a role to play. One thing that the brainy part of us can do is to help us edit our work. Another thing that our brainy part can do is to help us plan how to write better. We can learn things like how to organize paragraphs or how to write better stories or how to spell things, and that makes our language sound pretty good as well. So we can use our brainy part for that, and also we can use it to find patterns in the language and things we hear and read. And some people find these kinds of patterns, like look at this, athea, 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 athea. They find the repetition and the patterns super interesting. I know I do. I enjoy it. And if you ever want to talk about those things, explore them, ask me questions, please do, because I will talk to you about them. In fact, there's a whole science about this kind of stuff called linguistics. That's all those people do. The linguists, they study these things, these patterns, these developments in languages and how they work, the spelling, the forms, all that good stuff, all that jazz. I love it. So we will be using our brains, the thinking part that runs on rules, and thinking about the language in class every day. As much as you want to, please just request it and we can chat about it. And we'll look at what we write and what we notice about the new things we have written in Spanish, the spelling, the word order, how the sentences are put together, etc. We'll compare it to English as well. So we'll be getting that kind of input, the brainy input. Our brains love to feel challenged in the right ways. We like solving problems and solving puzzles. Language can be like this for our brains too, of course. Learning a language is a way that you might unlock another wise part of your brain that you might not yet have discovered. You can learn how to see things in a new way, like I mentioned at the beginning, opening up a window from your person into the world and seeing things in an entirely new way. I know I've made connections before that have surprised me, and you probably have too, and you probably felt proud of it. There might have been a little tricky part of it along the way when you were figuring something out, but once you worked your way through it, you probably felt pretty dang good. Maybe you took time and considered all of the options, and finally something clicked, and it felt so nice, and you were able to work out this problem, and you succeeded, and essentially you opened another part of your mind that was there all along, but you just didn't know it. You probably felt pretty proud and excited. Working hard on these kinds of puzzles or problems can be fun, but this is not the main focus of this class. The main focus of this class is to use the language so that we can develop the ability to speak from the heart and to have, and not to think so much about the rules, but be able to express ourselves. You will find that your ability to express yourself in Spanish will grow rapidly, and they will grow faster the more you listen and read in the language. So, describe a situation in which your brain worked hard to learn and it felt satisfied afterwards. So think of a time when you know that you worked through something difficult and it felt pretty great to have done it. Describe una situación en la que su cerebro trabajó duro para aprender y se sintió satisfecho. All right, moving on from that. We'll still have exercises, tests, and quizzes, and some of that will be based on vocabulary words and facts about the language. However, we will also have assignments that grade you on your ability to understand Spanish and also to write and to speak in Spanish. At first, you will not be able to write and say a whole bunch, but the more you listen and the more you read, the more fuel you'll get, the more gasoline will be put in your brain and your heart, so to speak, with rules and with messages. that the system for language acquisition will get faster and faster, and you will be able to say more and more because you put so much of that good fuel into yourself. Of course, I want you to be able to listen and read attentively in class, but you might find that you are motivated to seek even more input outside of class as well. The good news is that anything you do to entertain yourself in English, you can also do to entertain yourself in Spanish, and you can get more fuel that way. So, for example, you could watch movies in Spanish, you could watch YouTube videos in Spanish, you can find books and read them in Spanish. Read articles about the stuff you're interested in Spanish, even Wikipedia articles, for example. We'll be using Spanish as much as we can in class, but to develop even faster and learn even more, feel free to ask me and I'll help you to find more outside sources that you can use. There's plenty out there. We are in the second largest Spanish speaking nation in the world, in the United States. Tons of opportunities out there. Communication is a beautiful thing, and I hope you will see soon the power that it has and the power you will have to express yourself in another language. The world needs you. The world we're living in today needs our help. It needs people who choose to do good things and to find each other, respect each other, help each other, understand each other, so you can do all those things. These people that speak from their hearts. With your excellent communication skills, you can make communities, your friends, and your planet a happier place to live and grow and be together. All right, given that our planet faces many serious problems, why is it so important to be able to connect with people from around the world? Dado que nuestro planeta se enfrenta a muchos problemas serios, ¿por qué es importante poder conectarse con personas de todo el mundo? Please reflect on that. And thank you for listening to my presentation. Gracias. Adiós. Nos vemos.